Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. Today we are doing the Metasploit Framework Hack the Box Academy. I've done one of the other Hack the Box Academies, and I like them. I think they do a good job. The problem is that most of their modules are very large, so I will have to do them, in chunks. So this is part one. We'll get all the way up to where we capture the first flag, and then we'll do part two after that. As you can tell, I'm a little sick, so don't worry about that. But one thing you guys will notice too is I get a lot of requests to do some of the more expensive, we'll say, boxes on here. And the reason I say that is because the way their pricing model is kind of weird. But before we get too far deep into it, guys, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that sub button. Helps out tremendously. I'm going to keep doing the Hack the Box Academy. I think it's a very good resource. But like I said, I get a lot of requests to do the more expensive ones or harder ones, however you want to say them, because some of them I think are easier but more expensive. Anyway, the reason I haven't done those yet is because I try to keep my channel as much as what you can do for free as possible. And the reason for that is because I want everybody to have a chance to do it. So if one of the boxes costs $10 and someone doesn't have $10, they just have to watch. Like that kind of sucks. So keep in mind that if I get a bunch of requests, if you drop a bunch of comments below and say, hey, we really want to see you do this one, I'll do it. But I don't want to necessarily exclude anybody. So, okay, preface this with some good information here. So tools can indeed, in some cases, present us with some downsides. This is true. So create a comfort zone that will be hard to break out of and learn new skills. So this is huge. What happens here is, and by the way, these are going to be longer videos because I really like the teaching style. But anyway, these tools create a comfort zone that is hard to break out of and learn a new skill. This is 100% true. If you use a tool over and over and over and over, there's a misconception that you know what you're doing. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, a lot of people use John the Ripper and crack hashes. Do they actually know what they're doing? Some do, but some don't. So it creates that comfort zone where you're like, yeah, I know how to crack hashes. But then someone says, okay, don't use John the Ripper. And you say, I don't know then. And that, for instance, my dog just cried. But anyway, so that, for instance, creates that comfort of false sense of confidence in a sense. Creating a security risk just because they were published online for everyone to see and use. This is obvious. People publish tools, vulnerabilities all the time, so it creates a little bit of a security risk, but I also think on the opposite side of that, it does two things. One, it forces companies to patch and fix things. So for instance, if a vulnerability exists in Microsoft, we'll say, which happens all the time, if they don't fix it, and someone publishes it, now they're forced to fix it because otherwise there's going to be an uproar, right? So sometimes that's a good thing because sometimes companies will sit on these for years. Create tunnel vision effect. If the tool cannot do it, neither can I. This is something I see all the time. I see people say, is this possible? Can you do this? Can you do that? Anything's possible if you try. And I know that sounds like cliche, but in IT, it really is. Like, there is a vulnerability in everything. You can break anything. It's, can you figure it out, right? So don't rely on tools to do things that you can't. I use tools as a good helper, but it's not the only thing I use, right? I'm not going to, if a tool can't do it, I'm not going to say I can't do it. I'm going to figure out another way. All right, so what is Metasploit? So there's two modules, if you will, of Metasploit. There's the Metasploit Pro and there's Metasploit Framework. The framework's the open or the free version. The Pro is the paid version. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Here's the difference with the Pro. You have task change, social engineering capabilities, vulnerability validations, a GUI, and quick start wizards. So one thing I'll tell you with the GUI, don't ever use it. Maybe if it gets better, but the GUI is really, really bad, so I don't recommend it. And you can see they're just kind of comparing the two. If you've used Metasploit before, you've probably used the open source, the free version. That's the command line that you'll see us use today. But that's what we're going to use, so that's what we're going to focus on. Now, the framework console, what is Metasploit, right? Metasploit is a framework, okay? It holds all these vulnerabilities or all these basically exploits in them or in it, and it allows you to use them and you're validating that you have the correct one. So the reason Metasploit came around, if you've ever heard the owner or the creator talk about it, was because back in the day when you were a hacker, you knew a new vulnerability came out, and what'd you do? You had to go talk to your buddies, your hacker friends, and say, hey, can you send me that vulnerability? I want to try it. I want to check it out. Well, the problem was you didn't always get the correct thing. You might have got another hacker might have been messing with you and sent you malware, or you don't know what you're getting, and they're not validated. So Metasploit came along and said, well, we're going to take all the vulnerabilities we can get, and we're going to put them in here to where you can use them. For one, for pen testing, it's huge because I don't have to have them all in a stored area. And the other thing is I know what I'm getting and I trust it. So on the flip side of that, obviously attackers, illegal hackers are going to use the same tool, just like they always do. So understanding the architecture, okay? So to fully operate whatever tool we're using, we must first look under its hood. That's true. It's good practice and can offer us better insight into what we're doing. Look, it is essential not to have any wildcards that might leave you or your client exposed to data breaches. Okay, so you don't want any, and wildcards are a big no-no in the security field typically, so just keep that in mind. By default, all the base files related to Metasploit can be found here. So if we go to here on so they use Parrot distro. This is on Parrot right now, so we're going to use Parrot. I use Parrot. I'm not saying it's better or worse or anything like that. I know Hack the Box uses it, but that's not why I use it. I used it before they switched over. So here you can see the modules. If you look, and you'll see that when we're actually using the Metasploit, these modules start to make sense. So what I mean is here they're listing user share Metasploit framework modules, and you have auxiliary, encoders, evasion, exploits, NOPs, NOPs, payloads, and post. Okay, and then you have plugins, and you can see plugins offer the pen tester more flexibility since they can easily be manually or automatically loaded. So you can actually add these, and you can see it's written in Ruby. You can see Meterpreter functionality and other useful scripts. So these are scripts like Meterpreter, PowerShell, resource shells. So again, with these, they're showing you the file structure because you can add, remove, whatever you want to do. A lot of people remove them, not here specifically, but there's light versions of Metasploit, and these are ran on like Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. So if you're looking for like light versions, or if you say you have a pen test that you want to run on like a nano computer and you literally just need two Metasploit modules, you can put them on there and it's very thin, very light, and you don't need necessarily the whole backend database loading everything. So now tools, command line utilities that can be called directly. So these are the tools that you can actually directly call from the MSF console, which you're going to see us do. So now, which version of Metasploit comes equipped with a GUI? And that's Metasploit Pro. Again, Metasploit Pro is good, but Metasploit GUI is terrible. Maybe it gets better. I don't know. I have not seen it good. We'll say that. Which version of Metasploit is free and can be used through the client? And that is MSF console. So that's the one we're going to use today. That's the one that you're probably most familiar with. You've seen hackers use before. Now to start interacting with Metasploit framework, we need to type MSF console. So I'm going to do that now. And the only reason I'm going to do that now is because it does take a second, but you can see as I run it, we'll go ahead and scroll down. And you can see here, they've got a little picture of a guy. This runs a different one every time. It's not completely random. There's a total amount of them or whatever, but you can see if you run MSF console TAC-Q, it's quiet, I guess is what it stands for. But it won't display a banner. Some people think the banner is annoying. Some people think it's important. They really like it. So it's important to them to see it. So now you can see if you haven't installed it, if you're using a fresh install of Linux, or if you have a Linux version that you want to install it, you just do sudo apt update and install Metasploit framework. Obviously I have it updated and installed, so I'm not going to do that. So now here the Metasploit framework engagement structure can be divided in 5 main categories. So this is just kind of showing you their version of, in my opinion, the attack framework. I don't really think that's what they're going for, but that's kind of the way I read it. So you can see here, they start with enumeration, then they service validate, and they do this with passive scanning. Passive scanning, as we know, means you're not actually touching the system. You're not creating a source. Here it says interacted with services legitimately. Some people will call that passive. Some people call it active, meaning if you go to their website, yeah, it's legit activity. So it could be passive, but also you're creating logs somewhere that show you were there. So I consider it active, but it doesn't really matter. Then you have vulnerability research. So once you get the information, once you get the service validation and you know what you're looking at, you're going to start researching it, right? So then you can see they're saying, okay, now proceed to preparation. So once you get everything you need, you're proceeding to prep. So now you're looking at prep, right? Dependency checks, custom modules. You're getting everything ready to do your exploit. You're getting everything you need, any dependencies, any custom modules that you're creating, whatever you need. And then you're exploiting. Now, when you run it locally, what they're saying is you're going to run it, you're going to set your parameters, you're going to do everything. So what this means is you're not actually running the module, you're loading the module, if you will. You're getting it ready, then you're setting the parameters, then you're running it, and that's going to go against the target. Now, privilege escalation, once you're in, once you actually have control of the target, you're going to escalate privileges, and this is just common pen testing methodology. But with Metasploit specifically, there's certain things that you can do to go ahead and do that, and that's what we're going to follow in this. So then post exploitation, you can see that you're going to pivot, you're going to gather more credentials, you're going to exfil data, and then at the very end, you're going to clean it all up. You don't want to be busted, you don't want to be seen later. All right, so now modules, as we covered them, you can see that there's different types of modules, and this is the way that they're going to be labeled. And it's important that you know this, because when you're searching for modules, which you'll do quite often in Metasploit, if you know the actual syntax, it's really easy to search. So you can see you're looking for type. So type is exploit, whether it's an exploit, payload, auxiliary, whatever the type is. And then you can see the OS, so obviously Windows, Linux, whatever. Then service, so FTP, and then the name of it. And then you can see there's a script FTP list. So this is the syntax, the way it's going to be presented to you. It's important to know that, like I said, because when you go to search something, if you search exploit /Windows/SSH, right, it's only going to list me the SSH ones. It's not, I don't have to look through every SSH capability because I did the Windows exploit. I don't have to look through the auxiliary, the payloads, the whatever. I can just look at the exploits. So it'll save you a lot of time if you actually know how to search. Okay, so the index number tag will be displayed. So the tag is actually important, the number, because if you have like this number here, if you search and there's a number, you can actually just say use that number instead of type the whole thing out and actually reference it that way. And you'll see what I mean by that. The OS tag specifically or specifies which operating system, which makes sense. The service tag refers to what service it's using, makes sense. The name explains the actual action, and you'll see when you do the search. So you can see there's the help menu with the search. You can see when we actually search, like here, we're going to search Eternal Romance, and we're going to actually do this because this is what they want us to do. So we're going to say search Eternal Romance, and you can see we actually get two. We have one is auxiliary, admin, and then SMB, right? So the auxiliary admin isn't what we want. We want the exploit. We don't want the auxiliary. We want the actual exploit. So I'm going to say use, and I'm going to put 1 because remember the number, we can reference that. So use number 1. And you can see it's going to load it for me. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to go and actually type this whole thing out, because you could type use exploit Windows SMB MS17 blah blah blah. You could do all that, or you could do it the way I just did it, and it's way faster. So now MSF specific search. So you can see here, if we do the search specifically, like I was saying before, you could search, type, exploit, platform, Windows, CVE, rank, and you can get very granular with these search results. And then instead of having 15, 20 for one thing, you only have 3. This saves you a ton of time if you know what you're looking for. So now module selection. Here's where we're going to start getting the meat and potatoes of it. You can see they're going to have you go ahead and module selection. They did an in-map search. And so one thing that's cool about Metasploit that they don't talk about, but they actually show that they backed out and went somewhere else. What you could actually do is run commands just like normal on Metasploit. So, all right, I'm back. So basically, like if I did, whatever I wanted to, if I CD'd into a different directory right now, or LS'd into a different LS'd a directory right now, it wouldn't really matter, because what Metasploit does is at the end of it, if you actually, or at the end of it, what am I saying? In Metasploit, if you run a command and it's not recognized by a Meterpreter or Metasploit command, it will actually run locally. So what I mean by that is if I ran ls right now, it's going to run like normal. It's going to tell me the list of in this directory. So keep that in mind. Like when it shows this nmap scan, you can run that without actually getting out of Metasploit. I always recommend opening a new tab and doing it, but I'm just saying you can run commands without ending Metasploit, because Metasploit can take, or it can take a couple of minutes to boot up. So, all right, so we're in the one we want. We're using the module we want. We showed how to do that. You just use exploit, and we did 1. So here's theirs, and we did theirs is actually listed as 0, but ours was listed as 1. So make sure you know which one you're looking at. You're looking for the exploit, not the auxiliary. And then we'll go through, and then you can see here's where you want to go ahead and say info, and this will give us a little bit of info about the exploit or the vulnerability that we're looking at. You can see you got a little bit of name, you got the module, you got the platform, who provided it, and then you can see that it'll give you a little bit more information about it. This module will exploit SMB with vulnerabilities, so it tells you actually a little bit more information about what you're looking at. The next thing you'll always do, and you want to do this in pretty much all things, is in all Metasploit, is just go to options. And options are just things, you see that the ones that say required, those have to have a setting here or else it won't run. So I always look at options. Now keep in mind, make sure if you're using your own machine, see how this has a local IP address. I want to set this to, I just set it to my TUN0. That's the VPN that I'm connected to for Hack the Box. I just set it to that interface rather than a specific IP, but make sure you're setting it appropriately, because otherwise it won't work. I'm going to scroll down and get the IP here. So now we see that we have that, and so we changed the L host to our interface. So now it'll come back to us. Now the other thing we have to set is the R hosts. You see R host, it doesn't have anything, but it says it's required. So we have to say R host, and that's your target. It's always going to be your target. So 10.129.222.149. That is our target. Okay. So now we have the target that we're going to actually attack, and then the L host is your interface that you're going to listen on. So what it's going to do is it's going to set up a listener, a Meterpreter listener on that host, or on that IP, or in this case on that interface, so that anything coming back it receives. So then we can just say run. If you're feeling real crazy and you're feeling wild, you can just say exploit, and you can see it's running it. And I'll tell you right now, this will probably fail. It failed. Oh, it didn't fail. Okay, it failed like 3 or 4 times for me the first time. If that happens to you, it's fine. Run it again. I know it sounds crazy, but some of these don't work right away, and it could be for a multitude of things. If you're getting all the way to this point where it's saying sending stage or service start timed out, okay, if running command, and then it just dies, just run it again. Something's going on. It's probably just an older vulnerability, and it's a legacy thing, and you just need to keep trying. If you do it 10, 15 times and it's not working, okay, then you can start looking. Now, here's the really cool thing about Meterpreter. So now we have a Meterpreter session. So what I mean by that is this is not a regular shell. So this is a Windows box, right? So I can use Windows commands like dir, and you'll see it's going to load a bunch of things here. There we go. Or I can also use ls like Linux. So whichever one you prefer, it's going to allow you to do that. So now I know that most of the time you're looking for the flag on a desktop. That's just common that people put them on a desktop, so that way you're not just searching for flag.txt forever, because that's a waste of everybody's time. So we'll just say we want to go to change directory to C, and then users is always 1 on Windows. And if you know Windows, we'll see if it's this way. Okay, so now if we hit ls, you can see. All right, I'm going to guess it's on the admin dashboard or desktop. I don't know that, but I'm guessing. So I'm changing directory into administrator, hitting ls, and then you can see there's a desktop. So we'll say desktop, ls, and then you can see there's flag.txt. So cat flag.txt, and boom, there you go. So there's your flag. So it's pretty simple to do. This is just a very simple exploit, but it gets you familiar with Metasploit and the Metasploit framework and how it works. I definitely recommend this for everybody. Once this is done, once you finish this, you can keep going if you want. I'm going to keep making videos for the next couple. I'll probably be a couple days until I'm not feeling sick because my throat's kind of hard to talk. But once you guys get past this, comment below and let me know you guys are done. So that way I can go ahead and start making the next one, because I want you guys to be able to follow along with this. And I want everybody to be able to do this one together, because I actually don't know what's going to happen because I haven't done the rest of it. I literally did this right before the video, and I'm going to do the next one. I don't know, like I said, how far this box takes me, and I don't know, how deep this Metasploit knowledge gets. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys like part 1 and look forward to part 2. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.